All right, and we are live on a Tuesday. It is the 29th of December. It is the last show of the calendar year for us here at Open Season. It's a full moon tonight. Arr, arr! And we are going after it. We got a Celtics game underway. They're taking on the Pacers. We'll be talking about the Pats and Bills recap. Is there any logical reason that Cam should be starting after an absolute just getting murdered last night? There's really no good way to say it. And Tom Brady still going at it. Alvin Kamara with 6 touchdowns. Dwayne Haskins was cut. In the NBA, we're talking about the Celtics, who are 1-2. Jaylen Brown's had a hot start. So have the New Jersey Nets and the Cleveland Cavs. Steph Curry hits another 3-point milestone, and James Harden with a pretty solid debut. We're going to be chucking all those things around tonight with our panel. I'm here with Frankie Bradica, Alex Tordai, and Justin Elaine, and we're going to kick it out with a little bit of a post-mortem on last night's Bills-Pats recap. Josh Allen threw 4 touchdowns in Foxborough last night. Cam Newton has only thrown 2 touchdowns in Foxborough this entire year. It has been that kind of year for your New England Patriots as they fall to 6-9. And Josh Allen, who has taken kind of every step, to that next level. The Pats really just taking a tough loss. They play both quarterbacks. Between them, they only complete 9 passes in just a long night. So, guys, where do we start with last night's game?
I'll go first. Wow. So that was a fun game to watch. I felt like I was a Jets fan last night just watching Brady tear us up. I mean, I just can't wait for this season to end, honestly. I mean, the team just please end the season. I mean, Josh Allen looks phenomenal. He's taking big strides. Obviously, Diggs coming along has made such an improvement to him and to the whole offensive game. I just want us to lose so bad with the Jets. Just get us a top 10 seed. And I'll just say one more thing. It's great. Josh Allen's great this year. How many picks have the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Bills had on quarterbacks the past 20 years in the top 10, and none of them panned out? And, of course, now it works once Brady's gone. I'll just leave it there.
I'm officially the president of the Bills fan club right now, of the Patriots fan, but currently a Bills fan club champion. That game was awesome. I love that they whipped our ass. I'm looking forward to having the 14th overall pick is where we're at right now. Hopefully we lose again to the Jets next week, and we can hopefully get into the top 10. I'm out here just hoping that we continue to suck for one more week. We get a high draft pick. We take the quarterback of the future, and I never have to watch Cam Newton play quarterback in the NFL again. Because it's just been dreadful this season. And there's been some fun times. That first touchdown scamper was kind of nice. He's got some talent, but he's more of a tight end than a quarterback at this point in his career. I don't want to see him throwing the football anymore.
Guys, this was not fun. I said all offseason if we got Cam Newton, it would be a fun and interesting offense to watch. I said it'd be ugly, but I thought it'd be creative and fun. Nothing about this season has been fun. This was the opposite of what I wanted to transpire in front of me. I thought we were going to win 10 games. I thought Cam was going to go for 3,500 yards. The man threw for 34 yards. I mean, this is bad. I mean, this is where this bus ends. This is where I can finally hop off the Cam bandwagon. The last guy's leaving the station.
Yeah, and seemingly, Frank, there's one guy that just will not hop off the Cam Newton bandwagon, and that is Bill Belichick, who is stuck by him all year long. And even after this week, or after last week, where they take another tough loss, lose by a lot, you hear Belichick in the postgame saying, "We'll let you know if we're going to make a change." And for some reason, seemingly there's no reason why Cam Newton started last night's game. I think the real reason would be if Stidham came out and threw 2 or 3 touchdowns, it makes Belichick kind of look like a clown for not going with Stidham a little bit earlier in the year. Obviously, Stidham didn't do that, but guys, as we head in with a week left, is there any reason that anybody can kind of come up with for why Cam Newton started the game last night?
They think Stidham is just as bad. They're hoping not to ruin his psyche because they don't plan on drafting a quarterback high. Really, what we're hoping for as Pats fans is one of these retread quarterbacks and for it to just work with Bill Belichick. We're hoping for lightning in a bottle. That's what we thought Cam was. But if we can get one of these, I don't know, Kirk Cousins, if we can get one of these, I'll take Alex Smith.
Oh, God. Would you really?
Over Cam Newton. I'll take him over for Cam Newton.
All right, I'll take him over Cam Newton.
Yeah.
I've planted my flag firmly in the Bill Belichick camp, so I have to believe that the reason he gets paid as much as he does is because you can have Joe Average at quarterback and win. Cam Newton was just so far below that bar.
Man, God, is Cam Newton bad? I don't think he gets another shot. I think he's a backup or he retires. It's over for Cam Newton. I mean,
yeah, I'm going to be completely honest here. I feel like if Cam Newton had even sat this year out, like I feel like there's no way that he's done himself any value by playing this year, right? Like if he had even sat this year and he would have probably been in position to maybe get a better contract, maybe get a look at, but by playing this year and performing as badly as he has, I really feel like he's not going to be taken seriously as a starter again in this league. I mean, do you guys see him potentially falling on anywhere after this year that he's had? Like, you keep hearing that, you know, he's been a good soldier, that maybe they didn't have the weapons, but is anybody around the league going to give him that kind of pass?
If he can't win, where can he win? If he can't win in New England, where can he win? Matt Castle went 11-5 at one point in time. Obviously, that's a better roster than what we have now. But, geez.
Gilbert started a game for the Cowboys. Like, Glennon is starting. Cam will get a starting Cam will start other NFL games because quarterbacks get injured. Cam, prior to this season, probably would not have been worth the risk as a backup. And what he's done this year is repair his reputation to the point where a team will bring him in on a minimal contract and no longer worry whether or not he'll disrupt the locker room.
But you're Cam Newton. You've already made millions and millions of dollars in your career, and you're really going to go through the grind for a minimum contract? I don't know how much Cam ended up making this year, but it couldn't have been much. He didn't hit incentives that I'm sure were part of his contract. He probably isn't walking away with, $4 or $5 million.
I think the only reason why Cam's playing right now is because of the fact that his incentives in his contract. I guarantee you, there's games played in his contract. So if you have him play 16 games, Bill likes him. No one else likes him. I mean, if you saw his what time he wakes up every morning, the guy doesn't even drink coffee until 8 a.m. What kind of psychopath wakes up at 4 and doesn't have a cup of coffee until 8 a.m.? At that point, I'm on cup number 3. I mean, the guy can't throw. At this point, he is Tim Tebow, and at least Tim Tebow had Christ behind him to make it interesting. Cam Newton sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, we got Hammy coming in saying that anyone can hand the ball off, that the guy can't throw. And I really couldn't agree more. I mean, the guy seriously throws the ball like it's a can of paint. He throws it like a high school quarterback would. I mean, it's just like you kind of look at him and you wonder how he was even good in college. Like his throws are off for even college. I mean, they're not even close to being on the money. And it's just like you feel like earlier in the season they were talking about this guy could potentially be worth a $100 million contract. I mean, how much is this guy? If he just sat out after he contracted COVID, right? He could have maybe gotten himself like a $50 million deal or something. You know, just by playing a couple games and sitting out. And you got to look at how much money people have talked about. After that Seahawks game, people were clamoring to spend 100, 120 million on this guy. So I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020, but this guy's definitely cost himself a lot of money this year. It seems like he's not going to be able to fall on anywhere else. And for the Pats, you have to think, for anyone who says that Cam Newton should get another shot, I feel like if anything, this year has shown you that you could play with any quarterback other than Cam Newton. You could take some guy next year who's undrafted and feel like he can do better than Cam Newton did. Like if you can win 6 games with the play that Cam Newton gave you this year, I mean, how many games could you win with a guy that'll throw 10 touchdowns? Like, that's doubling the numbers and still not even close to, being a solid NFL quarterback.
Dude, Billy, I don't think there's been a better point made about Cam Newton actually screwing himself than what he just made, because he really did, after those first 2 games, have people thinking, oh, okay, Cam Newton's legit. Cam Newton can win in this league. Cam Newton is a guy that's worth 10, 15, $20 million potentially a year going forward. There is no buts, if, ands about it. People were ready to give him that money. I know I was ready for the Pats to give him, a $20 million contract per year for the next 2 years if he continued playing at that level. But for whatever reason, I don't know if COVID killed him or what it was. I think it's just his lack of talent came out, and teams figured out what the Pats were doing those first few weeks with Cam and shut it down.
I think the question should be, what did Stidham do? Like, what did he do wrong to not get any playing time? I mean, before Cam, he was a starting quarterback. In the Chiefs game, we played Hoyer. In these blowout games, he doesn't come in till like the very last second. I mean, he hasn't lit the world on fire. He hasn't been much better than Cam. But what did Stidham do wrong in offseason, during the season, to not at least get some attempts to actually showcase himself, to see what he has, if he can be the future?
Yeah, it's like, did Belichick, did they kind of have some handshake deal that if Cam Newton were to take the minimum, that he would just play him the entire year no matter what? I mean, it just seems like there's really no explanational reason why. You heard that Stidham went to some wedding in Dallas over the summer. He had some shoulder injury. Maybe they thought he was a little bit soft in the preseason. I mean, those are really the only reasons, but those things happened in June, in July. I mean, enough time should have passed where this guy should have gotten some time, should have gotten a decent look, especially there's just no reason to be loyal to Cam at this point. Belichick has always said he's doing what's in the best interest of the team. And clearly, the best interest of the team is not to play a quarterback that's thrown 5 touchdowns thus far. We've got a lot to talk about, so we're going to flip the page and talk about someone who is performing well, and that's Tom Brady, who really just hasn't stopped over his last 3 games. Sets the Bucs touchdown record, sends the Bucs to 10-5, clinching a playoff spot. And guys, he threw for 348 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks in the first half. At this point, are we looking at this Brady's won the war? Or, how much more do we need to see out of this Brady-Belichick battle, before we declare a winner?
Need more time than 1 year.
The end of it. No. Brady's won the year. Year 1, post action, it goes to Brady. But if Brady gets bumped in the first round and 3 years from now we win a championship, who won it then? You're going to need to wait a little bit, because Belichick has probably 4 or 5 years left. Brady has another 2.
I think that we can only really extend this competition. It's so tough because it's obviously if Brady leaves and we get a guy and we win a championship 5 years down the road with a guy we drafted, we can say, oh, we drafted that guy, won a championship with him, so we have one on Brady. But I don't really see it working like that. I think that you have to look at it as only for the rest of Brady's career. Like, did they make the right move? They can rebuild at any time. They could have rebuilt when Brady was done playing, and I think Tom absolutely gives you a much better shot at winning Super Bowl, than anyone they currently have or will be getting probably for the rest of Brady's career. So I think Brady's the winner in this whole scenario. He's got weapons galore. He's got more control over a team than he's probably ever had in his career. He's got more say than Arians. It's not a situation where Belichick is, the end all be all with decision making, really, underneath Kraft. That is obviously. Brady has the influence of bringing a guy that Arians openly doesn't like in Antonio Brown. So I think that Brady's won this, and him going to the playoffs, I think it puts an exclamation point on it, where the Pats are missing out of their first playoffs. And what's it been now? 15 years? No, 12 years since Brady tore his ACL. So the last two times the Pats haven't made the playoffs, Brady hasn't been on the team. Hasn't been playing for the Patriots, whether it's injured or on another team. Coincidence? I think not.
So we can all say a battle. Obviously, it's always going to be Brady versus Belichick. But we have to remember that Brady left on his own terms. Brady wanted to leave the year before. He stuck it out for another year. It's not like Belichick, came to his house, said, like, I'm going to offer you this amount and you'll stay. Like, the contract was offered. Brady decided he wanted to leave and start another, go somewhere else to end his career. Do I think if Brady was here this year, we would have maybe got to the playoffs? Maybe. But this team is terrible. Like, if Patrick Mahomes is here, maybe we get 10 wins. But this team is not very good. Brady looks best right now than he has the entire year, and I think that's because Arians has finally let him run the offense instead of Arians running the offense. And they look really good. Yeah, let's face it. Detroit's secondary is probably the worst in the NFL. I'm not taking anything away from them. It was so nice to watch a quarterback throw passes instead of Cam Newton's darts in the ground. It was glorious. But the battle, it's not just this year. And I've been saying that from day one. They're going to be better than us. Look at the team they have around him. Let's see what happens next year. And I still think the Bucs probably lose in the first round of the playoffs.
I think it all depends on the matchup. Bucs could easily come out and win their first game, second game. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, with the talent they have at wide receiver, tight end, that whole offense, their defense, we just saw them destroy the Lions. Yes, it's the Lions, but man, something about the Bucs, man, they're starting to heat up. I like what I see.
Yeah, and I think if we learned anything, it's all about, I don't necessarily think that the Bucs have the best playoff team, but I would say that we've seen teams get hot. We've seen the Giants do it twice. We've seen the Ravens do it. It's all about getting hot at the right time. They're definitely a team that if they got hot, I think you have to look at some of the, granted it was against the Detroit Lions. Granted it wasn't against but that throw to Gronkowski, the first touchdown, where it was just, literally 6 inches behind or 6 inches ahead. It's either too close to the defender or out of Gronk's hands. That ball was thrown in the only window where it could have been. And you just have to look at this team as Antonio Brown scoring touchdowns in 2 consecutive weeks. They really are seemingly hitting their stride at the right time.
I'll just say, look at their record and look at Brady's numbers against the elite teams, and then look at their numbers against the garbage teams. And I will say one thing for Brady is it doesn't really matter if they play on the road or if they play at home. It matters more to teams like Drew Brees in the Dome. It matters more for Rodgers to play at Lambeau than it does Brady. So that favors Brees and Rodgers. If the Bucs had home field advantage, I think that they would go to the Super Bowl. I do not see them going to the Superdome and beating the Saints. I don't see it happening.
Man, the Saints have been through a lot this year. How many games have Drew Brees and Michael Thomas even played together? Kamara, unbelievable talent.
Is Thomas out for the rest of the year?
I think he's coming back for this
Still
week.
Headbutting teammates, or?
Yeah, who knows?
It seemed like he missed 2 weeks just for that.
Not only that, but the Saints have a history of choking in the playoffs. What's it been, like 3 or 4 straight years now? They've just choked in the playoffs.
True.
Well, I don't know if that play against the Rams was choking or if it was bad refereeing. I'm not sure that that's choking. I'm pretty sure that's just pass interference. And that, like, how do you call that choking? That's blatant pass interference. That's called revisionist history. Yes, I do think Drew Brees has been overrated in playoff games on the road. You're absolutely 100% correct about that. The Bucs pair up favorably with one NFC playoff team. Fortunate for them, it's the Packers. So if they get to Lambeau and they get to play the Packers, I actually think that they should win that game. I think they're going to lose to every other playoff team in the NFC. They cannot stop the run, and they're undisciplined against the pass.
I don't know. I feel like
they have like all the talent on defense. It just plays like shit.
True.
Well, speaking of someone who's pretty undisciplined, in a shocking move this week, Dwayne Haskins was released by the Washington football team. A guy that seemingly can't do the right thing, whether it's bringing in, and obviously, it's all his fault. I mean, whether it's been bringing in people against COVID protocol, whether it's been his lazy practice habits, or this, that, and the other. Dwayne Haskins has not helped himself at all. And a 15th pick 2 years ago ends up being released. Guys, what's next for Dwayne Haskins? Obviously, not going to say that you can stick a fork in this guy just yet, but does he end up with another team? Is he a serious chance to be a starter? What do you guys see the future holding for Dwayne Haskins?
All right, I think I should take this one, having been a Haskins believer and for whatever reason thinking that he was going to actually be good. I think he's probably going to sign on somewhere that has a solid veteran presence at quarterback. I put him in the Jameis Winston category of quarterbacks in the NFL right now, but with less talent. Jameis was bad, but at least that he was sometimes good. Haskins was just rough to watch all the time. And then the immaturity. I don't ever foresee him becoming a true starter in the NFL. I think he's going to be a great backup, someone that teams can throw in. He's never going to really take it seriously. He's just never going to fully get it. And it sucks because, he has talent, but I think that he's missing a lot of maturity, and you need that to be a quarterback in the NFL. So I don't think much his career is going to turn into much from here. I think he's in a really tough situation unless he completely changes who he is as a person. He's not going to be a starter in the NFL.
Would you take him over what we have currently?
Honestly, it would be a 50-50 for me.
Stidham?
50-50.
Yeah.
You don't know if Haskins could be good here. You know none of these three quarterbacks can be good here.
I mean, if Haskins can't be good with Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin, is he going to be better with N'Keal Harry and Sony Michel?
He needs a babysitter. His problem isn't supporting cast because he's got a rocket launcher for an arm. His problem is that he's got a ramen noodle brain.
Well, Pats haven't wanted to babysit since Josh Gordon, so I think they tried the babysitting experiment and they're over it.
I think
that happened up until last year.
I think Haskins will be out of the NFL in 2 to 3 years. And I say that because does he have talent? Yes. But will he ever be a good backup? No. Like, a backup quarterback needs to be a veteran that, has started a couple games like a Fitzpatrick or Ryan Moore in Kansas City, a guy that takes his job serious. Whereas Dwayne Haskins just doesn't. I just feel like he's another Jamarcus Russell that's got a cannon, but actually running an offense, he has no idea. At Ohio State, he literally just chucked the ball deep all the time. There was no offensive routes or anything. He just threw it deep. He doesn't take his job serious. I don't see him ever making it anywhere. Another team will obviously give him a shot because he was a top 15 pick. There is talent there. But do I ever see him just changing to be this guy that really wants to win a job over another quarterback? He wants everything handed to him, and he wants to just, live that James Harden lifestyle at the strip club. And unfortunately, you have to be elite to be able to go to the strip club and still play.
He got a $14 million guaranteed deal. So,
well, he just lost $4 million of that this week when he got released. That's why no team claimed him. He was $4 million guaranteed.
Wow.
I hope that last dance was worth it.
Ryan Leaf came out with this quote. I mean, when a top 5 bust of all time in your sport comes out and says it's like looking in a mirror, that tells everybody all you need to know about the suspect in question. I take him because I believe Bill can do anything, but he does not care about football. He's got that Johnny Manziel in him.
I take Ryan Leaf
5th on his list.
I'd take Ryan Leaf over Haskins any day of the week. And I only say that because there was actually passion there. That time he fought the reporter in the locker room, or like tried to like fight the reporter. He had addiction problems. Like he just couldn't do it. Dwayne Haskins is just lazy. Like there's a difference. And I think Ryan Leaf had a better collegiate career than Haskins did as well. That's what happens when you let an owner pick someone and no one else wants him. No one on the Redskins wanted him except Dan Snyder.
Yeah, I mean, I would also say they were legitimate, like serious debates over who you should take, Peyton Manning or Ryan Leaf. I mean, we can all look back, but I mean, Ryan Leaf was an amazing college quarterback, and I feel like Haskins kind of was just lucky in going out in a year where there wasn't as great a quarterback talent. I think that's really why he got elevated to that 15th spot.
Joe Burrows was the backup that year at Ohio State for Dwayne Haskins. Imagine if Joe Burrows was the quarterback that year with that talent. Granted, LSU, he had amazing talent as well. But come on, Dwayne Haskins is a bum.
Well, sticking on the NFC East, in a surprise, the Cowboys have won 3 straight games. They've been able to kind of force a lot of turnovers and be able to not turn the ball over so much over the past few games. And it looks like they're kind of making a charge towards this playoff spot. Do you guys think the Cowboys have a chance to win the NFC East?
Yeah. I mean, they statistically have a chance. I don't know if I really don't want to see the Cowboys in the playoffs. I'd rather see the Redskins.
I feel like if Alex Smith started that game, Alex Smith is what he is. He's not an elite quarterback, but he wins games. He doesn't mess up. Andy Dalton shits on himself year after year. He has probably behind the Bucs, maybe the Chiefs, the most offensive talent around him. Granted, his offensive line sucks. I feel like the Redskins, if they got in the playoffs, could surprise a team and win a game based on that defensive line. That defensive line changes the game. It's all first-round picks. They get a couple interceptions, fumbles, they can make it a game. Where I feel like the Cowboys get in, they're just going to get smoked.
So there is one thing I will say about Alex Smith is he is elite from behind the line of scrimmage to about 10 yards downfield. It doesn't get much better than Alex Smith in the NFL. It really doesn't. And anything beyond 10 to 40 yards, 50 yards, you're not looking at an above average quarterback. But for that 10 yards that Alex Smith and to the backfield that he has to work with, man, he'll carve you up. If you give him space to work, he will carve you up for the dink and dunk. He's great.
So he should have been on the Pats then. He would have been perfect for this offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I think he would have been like this year. I mean, I don't know as he continues to age, how good he'll be like next year and moving on, but I would have rather had him than Cam Newton this year.
Yeah. We'd probably be a playoff team with Alex Smith instead of Cam Newton.
I don't know about that, but it at least would have been more enjoyable to watch.
Well, one last thing to touch on before we get to the NBA. Justin Herbert has really had a fantastic rookie year. The guy hasn't even played all the games, and he's slotted to have the rookie record in yards, completions, touchdowns. He's already got it in completions and touchdowns, and he's most likely going to get it for yards. Again, not even playing all 16 games. And it looks like the Chargers, for a team that was starting Tyrod Taylor coming into this year, and we all were like, holy crap, they punctured how dumb were they puncturing his lung, on that or whatever. That ended up being the best thing that could have happened to them. And it seems like they have their quarterback, for the future. I mean, are there even a lot more quarterbacks that you would even, what can we say that hasn't been said about Justin Herbert this year? He's really had a fantastic rookie year, and it looks like the Chargers have their quarterback of the future for the next 10, 15 years.
Justin Herbert looks unbelievable. It's a scary precedent because I don't want doctors to go stabbing people on purpose because this was collusion. I mean, Tyrod Taylor this is a routine operation and they punctured his goddamn lung. Like, this was on purpose, and it led to the emergence of the best rookie quarterback season of all time. So it worked out, but it's a dangerous precedent to set in sports.
If you're a quarterback that gets drafted in the first round and Tyrod Taylor is the guy in front of you, you're probably going to have a good rookie season. Because Baker Mayfield, remember he started in Cleveland, and then Baker Mayfield had the best rookie season before this happened, at least touchdown-wise.
He's the new Bledsoe.
Yeah. I honestly
– Brady, Lossman, and then he had Romo. I mean, it's funny how it works out.
I'm just glad that the Dolphins took Tua over Justin Herbert. I think Tua is going to be a good quarterback, but imagine having Josh Allen and Herbert in this division. We'd be screwed for a decade plus.
We really would be.
Yeah.
But we're going to flip it now to the NBA, and we're going to start things out with the local team here. The Celtics in a game starting this year out 1-2, and in a game against the Indiana Pacers at halftime, they're up 60-57 against a Pacers squad that has started out 3-0 and has really gotten some great performances out of Sabonis, certainly Brogdon. Typically in years past, we wouldn't look into this matchup so much, but it's a pretty good matchup tonight. And the Celtics, at 1-2, we haven't really seen Tatum play the way that we'd like to see him. But I'd say the big surprises have really been in Jaylen Brown, who is seeming to take that next step. Peyton Pritchard is getting more and more minutes as the nights pass. He's already played 12 minutes in tonight's contest. What do you guys have to say about the way that the Celtics season has started and kind of who are the top performers or who's not up to par so far?
It's Tatum. Tatum is the guy whom will go as far as he goes, and he's right now not going very far. He is falling in love with the jump shot. He has no desire to go to the rack and get to the free throw line. He's not the best version of himself, and he's the best player on this team. So that's going to need to change. And once it does, we'll be fine. Indiana, love that team, love the makeup of it, and I hope they go far.
I can't say I'm not surprised by Jaylen Brown. I've been the Jaylen Brown guy since he got here. I feel like every year he takes another leap, and it gets really unnoticed because obviously Tatum's a star. He's a top, borderline top 10 player. But unless Tatum starts going to the hoop and gets aggressive, like this team is not going anywhere. Like Frank said, I mean, these fadeaway jumpers and it doesn't work. Go to the hoop. You're a top 10 player. You'll get free throws every time you go to the hoop. If it doesn't go in, at least 9 times out of 10, you'll get a foul.
Just so far, they haven't been getting those free throws, though. It's been a nightmare to watch as a fan. Tatum's they're just not getting to the line, and they need to force the issue. I think Tatum took it upon himself to say, hey, look, I need to put more pressure on the referees to make these decisions, and he does. Probably one of the best players that I think any of us has ever seen draw fouls was Paul Pierce, and he drew so many fouls, like just these little movements as you get to the rim. I'd love for Paul to do some work with Jaylen and Jason with their drives, and I feel like if those two can get to the line, 5 times a piece a night, so 10 shots a piece, whatever it might be, 5 times a piece a night, we're going to be in very, very good shape. And I think that's the next big thing for them. They're playing great. I think, so far, I mean, individually, I think as a team, it's taking some time to come together.
I mean, Kemba needs to come back, obviously. When you saw them play against the Nets, it was just talent against us. And it was it was like watching the old Heat against the Celtics just come in the Garden and just destroy us. I mean, it wasn't a game. After the second half, Kevin Durant decided, he's like, I'm going to start playing, I guess. We need Kemba to come back and start scoring, because there's going to be games where Tatum just doesn't have it. And you need a third option. And we don't have that option. I mean, Neesmith still hasn't even played. He's played like, 2 minutes? Like, he was supposed to be that 3-point shooter off the bench. We need it. It's I don't know. It's looking more and more grim, I think, personally, as they need to make some changes. And unfortunately, because of COVID, it's kind of hard to practice and do everything and make changes. And I don't know. Hopefully these changes come soon.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to see them bring along Nesmith a little bit faster. Guess I can't say that I'm surprised. I feel like the Celtics always are slow to bring along rookies. I feel like this is going to be one of the guys that probably gets a lot more playing time, like halfway through the season. But, you've seen Pritchard get a solid amount of minutes. I got to echo what Justin says as far as Jaylen Brown. I mean, the guy's almost making 10 shots or 11 shots a night. He's really elevating his game like through the first few games here. And it seems like last year's 20-point season definitely wasn't a fluke. I mean, it looks like this guy can be a legitimate number 2. I mean, he's still only 23 years old. So a lot of room for this guy to grow still. And it just looks like he's just continuing to be able to score better and better each year. But you got to wonder, where is that additional scoring punch going to come from? Because the Celtics definitely need some more scoring. You would have hoped it could have come in from a guy like Teague, but it seems like it's probably not going to come from there. So where else do the Celtics look? Javonte Green's gotten 15 minutes tonight, and he's got 7 points, but that doesn't look like anything that's sustainable either.
I'll say one more thing about Jaylen Brown too, and I feel like this happens almost every game, where if he's a first quarter, he comes out hot, he gets 9-10 points, and then he just kind of disappears. And I feel like he doesn't get the ball more when he's rolling. It's like we have to get Tatum going. And I get he's the number 1 guy, but sometimes just give Jaylen the ball more. He goes to the hoop. He's getting better at free throws too. He's just the only guy that can cut and go to the hoop on the whole team with aggression. I feel like Tatum does it more finesse. Jaylen Brown should get more shots than he does, especially when he's hot. Give him the ball. Enough Marcus Smart threes, enough trying to get Tatum going when he's not and he's ice cold. Let Jaylen Brown run the show for a little bit.
The third scorer is supposed to be your coach. It's supposed to be the system. Jeff Teague is not going to provide you, say, 18 points a night. He'll occasionally score 18, but he should be having 6-7 assists even off the bench, because we're supposed to have a genius young coach. And our offensive system has always helped average players overperform. And now it's not even doing that.
Especially
we really need to bring that into question.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of coaching, one thing that I've got to love is I feel like Marcus Smart is playing a little bit more within the offense this year, and that's something that's really been a lot more encouraging to me. Last year, he was around 12 field goal attempts a night. This year, he's more like 7. He's almost like cutting that number in half. And, I don't know if it's going to be something that sticks through the entire season, but it definitely seems like Marcus Smart is playing a lot more within the offense, and that's something that – it obviously comes with coaching, and you wonder if they took him aside in the offseason and told him that, we don't need you chucking up 20 some odd shots a night or chucking 15 3-pointers. I'll just say that, I'm personally happy with what I'm seeing from Marcus Smart, playing more within the offense through the first few games.
Totally agree, Billy.
Yep.
Fantastic point. Marcus Smart, you're great at what you do. You are not a guy where we should not have you leading the team in shots. Just can't happen. If we want to be a winning basketball team, we need you doing everything but leading the team in shots. Everything else you're allowed to do as much of as you want. Assists, rebounds, steals, defense, diving on the floor, do it all. We love it. Just not you shooting.
he's a good passer, and we need him to be that facilitator when Kemba's out. So if that's his role right now and he's playing good defense, that's perfect because he is a very good passer, and he's gotten better at passing every year. Stick to that. Hit your shots when you need to be, but don't force them.
I think the other thing that needs to be said too is just how good Tristan Thompson has meshed with this team and how welcome his addition has been. Like, we talked about the fact that he'd be like a 10 rebound a night guy, and he really has been through the first few games, getting easy buckets. I mean, this guy is exactly what the doctor ordered for the Celtics in the middle.
We needed a bruiser. We needed a guy to get boards. Haven't had it in a decade.
I don't know how old he is, but he seems to have aged excessively quickly in the NBA. I mean, he's always just kind of been Barkley with none of the talent. He's just had a big ass and like a high motor, but he looks slow. I thought he might get a couple blocks a game. That's not seemingly going to happen this year, but he's been great at everything else.
Tristan?
Yes, sir.
He has looked a bit slow, but he's looked great. Everything else, I agree.
That's where Robert Williams comes in, that youth, that speed. The two of them are a good combo.
Yeah, I'd like to see Robert Williams get some more minutes. He's always kind of like an up and down. He gets minutes one night, then doesn't get them the next. It'd be nice to see him carve out, like, even if it's 15 minutes a night, just consistently. But flipping the page, and let's talk about the nemesis, the dark force of the East. Justin brought them up a little bit, the Nets. And I think they've gotten off to a better start than probably anyone would have even thought. Kyrie seems to have found a different range, basically. Like, he's shooting threes from deeper than I can ever remember him kind of hitting threes. And obviously it's only the first few games, but him and Durant really look like a force to be reckoned with. And, they sit last night, of course, only 3 games into the season. So how much is that going to happen? But guys, we talked about it a little bit here, but how good do we think this Nets team can be? Are they the cream of the crop as far as as you're concerned in the East?
Probably, huh? Like I have no faith that they can keep it together between the ears and in the locker room, but on the court, seemingly every night, they make like basketball babies. I mean, their team is so fluid. It looks like Durant's come back from that injury being every bit the slightly improved defensive player that he had been in Golden State. He's lost none of the offense. Eventually, Kyrie will wear on that team, but right now, they're the powers that be.
I think it's, obviously Durant, Kyrie are the show, but the pieces that they have around them too, like those guys know what their roles are. And DeAndre Jordan, for what he is, has looked pretty decent. Joe Harris is a great shooter. Dinwiddie getting hurt, that's going to probably hurt them. But Karis LeVert coming off the bench, or I don't know if he's starting. Jared Allen looks good. I mean, they'll probably pick up a veteran guy that will get released at the trade deadline. A guy that will be like, oh, I'll play with Kyrie and Durant, just like everyone goes to the Lakers every year. They're going to be fine. I mean, they have shooters everywhere. And they just move the ball so well. It's like watching, the Warriors, the way they move the ball and find the open guy. It's scary to watch. And I think at this point, they're the best team in the East. And it's going to take a lot to take them out.
Yeah, they're stacked with talent. They're the number 1 team in my opinion in the East. At this point, guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. Someone could get hurt. Another team could come on strong. Maybe Kemba comes back. The Celtics start lighting it up. We don't know yet what's going to happen, but as of right now, I think the Nets have the most talent in the Eastern Conference, and it's not really very close.
So, guys, obviously the front runner, the last couple of years has been the Bucks. I don't hear the Bucks come out of anyone's mouth over there. Does that mean that you don't like what they've done as far as adding Holiday to the mix? You don't take them as seriously. What do you say for the team that's been the top team over the last couple of years in the East and the Milwaukee Bucks?
playoff Simmons, Ben Simmons, right? It's a thing. We know he sucks in the playoffs. And I'm not going to say that Giannis sucks, but I do think that, your star needs to have a reliable 3-point shot to win in this league. And Giannis right now, he doesn't really have that yet. And for that reason, I'm not concerned about the Bucks as a Celtics fan, and I don't believe in them as a basketball fan to come out of the East and beat the Nets. And even the Celtics are, maybe even, the Bulls. I mean, not the Bulls, excuse me, the Heat. The Bulls are the Heat. But I really think that playoff Giannis, I mean, it's the thing. In the regular season, yeah, he can bully everyone. Playoffs are a different story. And I think teams have figured that out.
I don't see a big difference between this Bucks team right now if they had Brogdon and them having Holiday. Like, Holiday is a bit better than Brogdon, but I don't think he's a big difference maker. And when you look around the rest of the team, like the Nets have a Joe Harris, they have Allen, they have LeVert. When you look outside those three guys, I mean, what do you really have? We have like an aging Corver. Lopez is pretty decent. I think DiVincenzo sucks. It's going to be hard, and I feel like Holiday wasn't the guy. If they had gotten Bogdanovich too, then we'd be talking, because Bogdanovich can shoot. I don't see it. I think they should have kept Brogdon in the long run. They wouldn't have had to make all these trades, and they could have got someone better than Holiday.
I mean, I would say, go ahead, Frank.
Oh, well, I was going to say they should have kept Brogdon. I mean, we first guessed it, but I mean, we're done second guessing it. It's over now. I do think this team is much better than last year's team. The guy was Chris Paul. I think that was the needle mover. They don't scare me, and it's not necessarily the 3-point shot. It's that he doesn't have enough of an offensive repertoire. His game's not fluid enough, even from the mid-range. If he could shoot 55% from the mid-range, he'd be fine, and that team would be fine. He can't take over a series offensively, because in 7 games, a team's not going to let one guy who can't shoot from outside of 16 feet win a game.
Yeah, guys, what I wanted to talk about is there are 4 undefeated teams. They're all in the East, and they're all teams that we traditionally would have laughed at in the last couple of years. But there are 4 teams that have started undefeated in the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Orlando Magic, the Indiana Pacers, and the Atlanta Hawks. The reason I bring them up also is it hasn't just been the way that they've won. I mean, they've really won, but all these teams are winning by about like 15 points a game too. So, I mean, in the first 3 games, these teams have really, kind of changed what we've thought of them over the past few years. Out of the Cavs, out of the Magic, out of the Pacers, out of the Hawks, who do you think is the most dangerous team for the length of the season this year?
Hawks. All day, Hawks. I mean, what Trae Young's doing, they got Bogdanovich. They've got a lot of really good young talent. They've got some solid veteran presence. I think the Hawks, man. Trae Young, he's Steph Curry 2.0, reincarnated. I love Trae Young's game. And I think it's crazy to think that the Hawks aren't the best team out of that bunch.
I mean, the Pacers are the best team out of those.
The Pacers are the best team out of that bunch. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, Pacers are going to be there. They'll probably be a top 5 seed in the East. The Hawks and Cleveland Magic, who have they actually played yet? I don't know who they've played. They're a good offensive team, at least the Hawks are. But the Hawks are going to be like the Suns back in the day, score 130 and give up 150 when they play a really good team. The Magic, I mean, I think they're going to trade Aaron Gordon at the trade deadline regardless.
Fultz is coming on. Fultz is getting confident.
Fultz is looking good, but I mean, the
Fultz has been a huge surprise for me.
Cleveland's not there yet. Drummond's been good, and Garland and Sexton are good. But like Kevin Love, like when's he going to be that contract going to be gone? Because they need a wing scorer, and they don't have it yet.
I'd like to, if I could, for a May. The Cleveland Cavaliers might not be there yet, but they'll get there. If they can keep those 2 guards, they will get there. 2 young 2-way guards who can who can hit tough shots. They're mid-range geniuses. They're going to go to the free throw line. They're going to hit those at a high percentage. Oh, I love that team. They're not there yet, but they're a great team, and they're going to be fun to watch for a long time if they can keep those players there. The Hawks, I think that's a perfect comp. And for the record, love that Suns team. I'll use them in 2K all day long. I really will. But you can't give up that many points that regularly, and the Hawks are going to fall into that territory. The Magic are bums. I almost don't even want to bring them up. They're just bad. I'm sorry.
No respect for the Orlando Magic, huh, Frankie?
House of Cards. House of Cards. They look good now, but as soon as you remove the ace, it'll all topple over.
I feel like the Hornets could beat the Magic.
I've got to agree with you. I think that Orlando is out to a hot start that they probably won't keep up with. I do think Indiana is the most talented team that we discussed out of those. But I do think that Alex has a great point, and just in terms of how good Trae Young has been. I mean, I think this guy could be a legitimate candidate to lead the league in scoring just his third year in. And I mean, he's a guy who could probably lead the league in scoring and probably put up like 9.5 assists as well doing it. The way that this guy is able to score, the length, the average, this guy averages a further shot away from the basket than anybody else in the league. I mean, he is literally, after half court, you have to pick this guy up. I mean, he's up there with Curry and Lillard as far as you've got to pick this guy up 50 feet away from the basket. So I do think that's really interesting. And then, the last thing is just the Cavs. Andre Drummond is really playing fantastic this year too. And he's actually scoring around 20 points a game. If he could get an offensive game, that might be something to reckon with. He's really been able to rebound, block, and steal, but hasn't been able to score. This year he's kind of putting it all together. He seems like he's getting better each year and kind of hitting his peak at 27. But I do have to say that I think the Pacers are the most talented team we brought up. I think they're the most complete. I think they could potentially have 4 guys on that team that are going to average 18 or above in Brogdon, Oladipo, Warren, and Sabonis. So I think you're looking at a team that's going to be really tough, in terms of meddling with the good teams in the East. We've talked about comps to Steph Curry. We have to bring up Steph Curry as he hit his 2,500th three-pointer, joining a very elite company and just Ray Allen and Reggie Miller. He's probably going to beat Reggie Miller's record in just the next few games. And then he's got about another 300 threes or whatever to hit to beat Ray Allen. The question isn't when this guy is going to beat Ray Allen and Reggie Miller. I think it's how far above this guy is going to go past Ray Allen and Reggie Miller. You have to assume he's going to be hitting 250 threes a year for the next 5+ years easily. Is there ever going to be somebody that's going to be able to touch the 3-point record that Steph Curry sets?
Trae Young. We were just talking about him. Mini Curry. I mean, and the thing is, Steph wasn't going crazy like Curry was, that like Trae Young was out of the gates. Steph was also older. Steph had a lot more injury. Like Trae Young is going to be the next guy who is going to beat out Steph's record. And there's going to be a guy after him. The 3-point line is, we're just going to see guys knocking these shots down at a higher and higher rate as time goes on. I think Trae is absolutely going to pass Steph someday, barring injury. But what Steph's doing is incredible, and that's no knock on Steph at all. What he's doing is insane. We didn't think that this was possible before Steph.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is Trae Young or Steph Curry a better shooter than Ray Allen?
It depends on.
I think Steph Curry's a better shooter than Ray Allen.
Yeah, I think
they're both better shooters from further away. I think Ray Allen's a better shooter than both of them. I think if Ray Allen was playing right now, Ray Allen would shoot, but he'd make about 7 threes a game. With that picture-perfect form of the game as wide open as it is now. And I know that's hard to speculate, but I wanted to bring up that question because I think Ray Allen, because of the generation of basketball that's coming into frame, is going to get overlooked a little bit. Because he's going to have that record for virtually no time.
Yep. Ray was part of the reason that
I would argue Steph's a bigger reason. I think Steph's a bigger reason. I think Steph revolutionized it because he could shoot from so far away.
Right, but Ray is the guy kind of. There was Reggie, then it was Ray, now it's Steph, then it's going to be Trey. Like there's an evolution of this, and I think that you absolutely, you could be right. Ray could be a better. It depends on where you're defining the shooting and exactly what we're talking about, but I'm sure that there's parts of Ray's game shooting wise that are better than Curry's potentially. I think Curry is the overall better 3-point shooter, but the pass to the Ray Allen in the corner, you just know he's knocking that down if you're getting the ball to Ray Allen in the corner. So I don't know. I think it all varies. It's all variables. Overall, though, I would take Steph over Ray.
I think Trey could beat Steph because what Alex said, how early on he is in his career doing this. But the other thing is, once the Warriors got going, he obviously had someone to pass to. Like the shots that Trae Young is getting on a game basis are something that Steph never really had because he had Clay and then Kevin Durant came in. He had to share the ball around. Whereas Trae is just going to keep hucking because there's no number 2 on that team. It's just, and also the wear and tear that Steph put on because they were going to the championship every single year. I don't see the Hawks going to the championship anytime soon. Like they have no defensive player on that entire team. So it could happen. I agree with Frank though. If Ray Allen played in today's NBA, he would be pushing like 30 points a game. Yeah. He would just hang out the 3-point line. And if we think Steph could hit him from deep, I'm sure Ray could hit him from deep as well.
Yep.
Well, I mean, let's apply the same thing to Reggie Miller. How good would Reggie Miller be in this NBA?
Well, Reggie's
crazy.
Reggie's not quite the shooter those 3 are. Reggie was unbelievably clutch with those 3s, and he's remembered fondly for it. Reggie has an awkward shot. His elbow's not in the right spot. He's not quite the shooter that those 3 guys are. And both Trae Young and Steph Curry are far better shooting off the dribble from distance than Ray Allen. I just think his shot was so much smoother. And if he played in today's systems, he would score so many more points so easily.
I mean, I just have to disagree a little bit with the fact that, I just don't see – if you think that Ray Allen could make this many threes, I totally agree. But I just don't see how you don't think that Reggie Miller would be able to maybe he doesn't have as pretty a shot as Ray Allen does, but you're talking about a guy that shot 40% from 3 over his career, led the league in free throw percentage every year, just like Ray Allen and just like Steph Curry did. If you think I don't see why you don't think Reggie's game would have translated as well. I mean, he was taking considerably less threes than either of these guys were taking. Do you just think it's because he had an uglier shot, Frank?
I think he would make more threes than he made in his career. I think that goes without questioning. I think Ray Allen goes from hitting, what did he hit? 2.5 a game in his career, 3 a game in his career. He'd be hitting like 8 now. I think Miller would be up around 5. I just don't think the exchange rate for those 2 players is the exact same. There's no question Reggie would be a better offensive player and hit more threes nowadays. I think the exchange rate for him and Ray Allen are different.
Okay. I mean, I definitely think that Ray Allen was a much better player than Reggie Miller. I would definitely rather take Ray Allen any day. I'm just thinking, it was kind of like Reggie was in that era, then it was Ray in the next, and then, each era kind of keeps changing. I mean,
I think Reggie also went to the hoop a lot more. He had a lot more 2-point shots than Curry and Trae Young ever will have. And more than Ray Allen ever had. It's just the way that the NBA was back then. That's why Reggie Miller stuck out so much back then, because there wasn't really another guy that was doing what Reggie Miller's doing. Now every single team has these little point guards shooting threes from half court, and it's crazy. But Ray Allen and Reggie Miller could clearly get 30 points a game if they played in today's NBA.
Yeah, and I mean, if Jordan could average 37 without a 3, without hitting threes, I mean, how many would he have averaged in today's game? I mean, it's just – if we're assuming that all these guys can pick up 3 shots, you got to assume that Jordan could have picked up a 3 shot. And, I mean, I don't know. If we're assuming that those guys could have scored 30 a game, how many could have Jordan have scored?
Also, how much longer would Jordan's career gone on if he was in today's game? He would have just stuck it out for like every year being a guy off the bench hitting threes.
Not true. Jordan could not have played with social media. He would have self-destructed. If you think that gambling with janitors made him retire for a couple of years and that Instagram wouldn't, look, I love Jordan as much as the next guy. I just want to be honest about this.
So guys, we'll probably probably go a few minutes over, but just a couple more things to touch on. Seems like the Dallas Mavericks kind of own the Clippers. I mean, they said, and it seems like Luka kind of owns the Clippers. They set a record the other day with a 50-point lead at halftime. They're up 77-27 at halftime. They end up winning that game by 51 points. I mean, I think it just goes to say, Luka without Porzingis and really without another star, beating, was questionably kind of the best team in the West. Just how good can the Dallas Mavericks be here over the next couple of years with Luka leading the ship?
Fantastic. They can be absolutely fantastic. They can be one of the top, I think, 5 teams in the NBA consistently. I think Luka's going to get better. I think the talent around him is going to get better. Having said that, I don't like that they got rid of Seth Curry. I think he was a really great piece for them, and I'm sad that he's gone. I like Porzingis. I want him to take another step. Yes, last year he came back. He looked great. I'd like to see him stay healthy as well. I'd like to see him take a step, stay healthy, and I'd like to see them add one more guy. I'm pretty sure they're going to have enough salary cap room for a max free agent spot this offseason, which is why they let Seth walk in the first place. So we'll see who they bring in. I think that this Mavericks team, the sky's the limit. And for Luka, I don't know if he'll ever go down as the greatest overall basketball player of all time, but he certainly could go down as the greatest offensive basketball player of all time. Defensively, he's not quite there yet, and I don't know if he ever will be, but offensively, man, he's crazy.
Yeah, I just think it's so impressive that they're able to beat this team of giants, the Clippers, with it's Luka and everybody else. It's you're literally talking about Tim Hardaway Jr., Dorian Finney-Smith. You're talking about Trey Burke. I'm going to be naming guys that you don't even know. I mean, you can't. These are not household names here. Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber. So it's just like if they can put another guy. If they can get another star along with Luka, and if Porzingis can come back, you've got to assume that they're going to be able to. If they can beat the Clippers the way that they've been able to, really with Luka against everyone else, you just have to assume that there's a lot of bright in their future.
I also don't think we should be using the Clippers as the barometer. Like, the Mavericks have owned the Clippers, but maybe the Clippers just aren't that good, especially early in the season, especially without Kawhi.
You really don't think the Clippers are that good?
I don't think they should be the barometer for how we're judging the Mavericks. The Mavericks clearly, for whatever reason, play well against that team. Kawhi was not playing. And at the end of the day, without Porzingis, and I love Luka. Without Porzingis, that team's not going very far. They're going to the playoffs, but nowhere else.
Yeah, I think the Clippers they have no heart whatsoever. I feel like if the game's too tough, they're not going to battle like to come back. They just shut down. Mm-hmm. I don't think much of the Clippers. I don't see them. I see them being maybe the 4th seed in the West this year. I think Denver is going to be better than them. And I think a surprise team will be the 3rd seed. I think the Clippers, it's funny because I thought the Lakers it would take time for them to develop, and maybe, all these stars would come in and it'd be maybe a disaster in the locker room. But the Clippers are like falling apart right now. They don't have who's the coach? Tyronn Lue. I don't see it. Them losing Harold too is big. And no one's talking about that.
Ibaka's better than him.
I would take Harold over Ibaka any day of the week.
Ibaka has had a nice start. Ibaka he had a career year last year in Toronto, and he has had a good start this year. But you could definitely argue that.
Yeah, but Ibaka's a champion, and he's been to the finals twice.
Ibaka's also a shot blocker, whereas Harrell isn't.
He can also shoot from further away than Harrell.
Ibaka's also been in the league for 12 more years than Harrell has. We're talking championships. I mean, Harrell's been in the league for what, 3 years?
He won a championship 2 years ago. It's not like he won it in the ancient day. He won it 2 years ago.
All right, well, let's put the 5-minute shot clock on this. We'll wrap this one up at 8:40. 2 more topics. We talked about the Clippers. Let's talk about the other team in LA. It seems like no one can, but can anyone top the Lakers this year, guys? The Nuggets and Nikola Jokic. Jokic has been averaging like an insane triple-double to start. He had like 18 assists the other night, and they definitely look like a team that's going to be back there contending again. Is there going to be anybody that's going to be able to top the Lakers this year, seriously, in the West?
Are you asking me, will they or can they? What's the question exactly?
Is there a team that you think, I guess, can they? Can they knock off the Lakers?
The Nuggets can knock them off. There's a lot of ifs there, but the Nuggets can knock them off. I think if Porzingis can get you 26 and 8, I think the Mavericks can knock them off. But I think that's really all we're talking about here.
Anybody else have a contender in the West?
If we're I think in the West, I really like the Clippers in the West. I really do. I still do. I know everyone likes to dog on them, but after what they did to the Lakers on opening night, I like what they're showing me. And I think if they're in a matchup against the Lakers, they actually have the edge.
I just think the Lakers are going to be better this year than they were last year. I think getting Schroeder too is big. To not have LeBron, at 36, 37, being the main person bringing the ball up every single game for the whole season. Harrell's a nice addition. I could see Kuzma taking maybe a step up. I love the Mavs. I wish Porzingis would come back and they could make it a series, and they could if he was healthy, but I don't know what he's going to be this year.
Well, guys, let's bring the Celtics talk full circle and talk about 2 guys that have had an absolutely torrid start to this year. Playing for Charlotte, however, Gordon Hayward at 23 points a game with 7 assists a game, really shooting well. And you've got Terry Rozier averaging 22 points a game. Both guys basically leading the way for Charlotte in scoring. Should the Celtics have kept either of those guys, and how could this year maybe have looked a little bit different if they kept Hayward? Would he have given them that scoring punch that we talked about that they needed?
Those 2 players are both AAU basketball players, and that's their problem. They cannot play here with the scrutiny in the media. They get so consumed, and it wears on them. It wears on their wives. They needed to leave here for good reason. I'm glad they're flourishing. Gordon Hayward is finally having fun, and he finally looks like he's past that horrific injury. And I always liked Terry Rozier, but, you got to get off my team because you're not better than Tatum. You're not better than Kyrie. Bro, you got to go. You're wrong for the team. And they're perfect for the Hornets, and they're going to be fine there. All the popsicles and ice cream for them. They get to go to friendlies after every game.
Hayward would be – I'm happy for him. He didn't fit. Unfortunately, his injury, everything passed him by. Tatum, Brown got better. And I'm glad Rozier's not here, to be honest with you. For how good he looks, we look at the stat line. If you watch a whole game, how many freaking dump shots does Terry Rozier take? He's great, but then play him on the road in a big game, he's 0 for 10 and can't show up. He does great now because there's no fans in the stands. But Terry Rozier is one of those guys that he plays when he's at home. He needs the crowd behind him. But when he's on the road, he is awful. So
healthy Gordon Hayward is an elite NBA talent. He's very rarely
healthy. Of the ball. On one side of the ball, sure, yes.
On one side of the ball. He's rarely healthy. I wish him well. I don't think he'd be helping us that much. I think he'd be stunting the growth of the guys that can help us get to an NBA championship in a year or two. And that's really what I want to focus on.
It would have been nice to have him this year. We can't say that it wouldn't have been because right now, especially without Kemba, but to think that we would have signed him afterwards, like I'm glad we did not because I don't want that contract at 30 whatever. But he would have been good this year, especially off the bench to lead because clearly our bench sucks right now.
Well, guys, with that, we will we'll call it an episode, and we'll see everybody next week on Tuesday. You know the time, you know the place. For Justin, for Frank, for Alex, I'm Billy Allen, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.